So good morning. I'm here with Amanda Karhuse, who's the Director of Advocacy for the National Association of Secondary School Principals, NASSP. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So I know that NASSP has been very busy and working diligently to try to influence federal policy around supporting funding for principal development. So can you talk a little bit about the efforts that you've been working on?
Yeah, of course. This has been something we've been working on for years. Under No Child Left Behind, there is Title II, which is the section of the law that provides funding for principal training, professional development, preparation programs, evaluation systems for both teachers and principals, and it's a long laundry list of allowable uses. A lot of that money had been going towards class size reduction, and the department even reported that only about 4% of that funding total was going to principal professional development. So as the new law, the Every Student Succeeds Act, was being drafted, we worked closely with Senator Al Franken from Minnesota, who's a huge champion for school principals, to include language that would allow states to reserve up to 3% of their Title II funding specifically for school leader activities. We were really thrilled to see that enacted, and as states are writing their new plans for ESSA, many of them are taking advantage of that new flexibility and are going to be using the funding to create principal academies, to train principals on their teacher evaluation systems, how to better support teachers to improve their practice, and just looking at the principal pipeline. That's something that Tennessee is doing.
Is there any sense of a broad picture of how different states are using that funding for federal, for principals?
Yeah, it's really difficult, and one of the reasons is that federal law didn't really require districts to report how they were using their Title II funding. So we have anecdotal evidence. We had a session the other day here at our National Principals Conference where we asked them, how many of you know how your Title II dollars are being spent? I think every hand in the room went up. So they're very aware of it. They rely on it. But most principals will tell you that with the limited pot of funding, they prefer to spend that money on teacher professional development. And they kind of left themselves. They're selfless, and they try to make sure that their teachers are well supported and kind of leave themselves last. But we really have pushed for more reporting. We'd like to know how districts are spending it. We'd like to see more research around what are the effective professional development activities, what does make a principal better, so that we could be guiding states and districts on how to use that funding better. Because right now we are in a really tough climate budget-wise, and we have the president's proposal for FY18 came out a few months ago, and he has proposed to completely eliminate Title II funding, and they are claiming there's a lack of effectiveness around those dollars. And I said, well, it's really hard to look at whether they've been spent well when we don't even know how they've been spent. So we'd really like to see some more research around that.
Okay. And I understand that part of your work really focuses on how principals can try and influence state policy. So share with us a little bit about how principals are trying to get involved in the larger political environment.
Yeah, this has been a huge push for us. NASSP, a lot of the national organizations hire lobbyists, but we can only be so effective. First of all, we can't meet with all 435 members of Congress. It's literally impossible to do that. Most of them do want to meet a constituent, so even getting a meeting can be difficult. And we don't have those personal stories that are so impactful when they're meeting with the legislators or their staff. So really, I've made a concerted effort. Anytime we have principals in the DC area, I organize some sort of a day of action where we train them in advocacy. We talk to them about the key policy issues that are being considered and give them some tips on kind of what they should be talking about in those meetings and take them to Capitol Hill and unleash them. I think it's been really effective. We saw over the years as we talked about reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, we had some key bills. One was a School Principal Recruitment Support Act. Another was around literacy, the LEARN Act, that we would see the number of co-sponsors on those bills increase right after our Hill days. Really hearing from a constituent was very important. With ESSA, obviously there's going to be a shift in who's making the decisions. I don't think we're going to see ESSA reauthorized. I mean, it took, 13, 14 years for it to be reauthorized. So I don't think the federal policymakers are going to be looking at that law for a very long time. So right now, most of the decision making is going to happen at the state and local level. So we are trying to provide more support to our state affiliates. They range in size, so some of our larger associations like New Jersey, Illinois, Washington State, they do have a government relations department, somebody who lobbies at the state level, but we're trying to help our other state associations with effective strategies, resources we can provide them. Here at the conference, we had a session today with a few of our board members talking about some key policy issues at the state level, looking at school leadership, looking at what's happening with the ESSA plan and what the state plans to do to support principals. Also, school choice issues, which is very hot right now, not just in Washington, D.C., but around the country. And also school climate and culture. We talked to them about transgender issues, just mental health, which principals, every time I meet with a group of principals, talk about how important that is, how they don't have the school nurses, counselors, psychologists, social workers that they need, and that they seem to have increasing concerns around teen suicide at their schools. So we talked about all of those issues, had them talk at their tables about really what's happening in their own states, and we had them sign a pledge to take action and gave them some tips. Review the ESSA state plan. If they haven't been submitted to the Department of Education in Washington yet, there should be a 30-day public comment period. So review the plan, comment on your plan, meet with your school board members about your district policy on transgender students, advocate at the state level for more resources to hire mental health professionals in schools. So.
Principal development explicitly part of the state plan?
States really are listening to the new research that has come out in the past decade. The teacher is still the most important school-based factor in improving student learning, but the principal is second. And if you think about it, the principal has such an impact on teacher quality. They are the ones evaluating and coaching and mentoring teachers for the most part. And you look at the research, we just did a position statement at NASSP on the teacher shortage, and it's very clear the reason why teachers are leaving the school is usually the leadership within that school determines whether they want to stay or whether they want to go somewhere else and leave the profession altogether. So I think a lot of states have heard that and know how impactful it is. Many of them, even if they're not taking advantage of the 3% set aside, they are using their 5% for state level activities to support principals in some way.
Amanda, it's wonderful to meet you, wonderful to talk to you, and I look forward to hearing how things proceed down the road.
Great, thank you.